My aunt mocked my diabetes, so I exposed her cheating husband at Thanksgiving. My aunt Rebecca has a fundamental hatred for me. It's not the kind of passive, polite dislike you see in movies, where family members trade thinly veiled insults over dry turkey. It's an active, burning animosity that's been a constant presence in my life for as long as I can remember. I know it's weird to think a grown woman, your own flesh and blood, could despise a child, but that's the reality of my situation. Rebecca's entire world, her whole religion, is built on the altar of physical appearance. Her body is a temple she starves and sculpts with a terrifying devotion. She exercises relentlessly, every single day, without fail. Holidays, birthdays, even when she has the flu, she's on the treadmill. Food is not for enjoyment. It is purely fuel, and anything she deems junk, which is basically everything that tastes good, is forbidden. I once saw her have a full-blown meltdown, screaming and throwing things, because my Uncle Richard bought her a small box of gourmet cupcakes for their wedding anniversary. He had meant it as a sweet gesture, but in her eyes, he had presented her with a box of poison, a direct assault on her discipline. She is bone-thin, a collection of sharp angles and taut skin, and she carries herself with the smug superiority of someone who believes they have unlocked life's greatest secret, that to be thin is to be worthy. Maybe that's why my uncle cheats on her. It's a thought I've had more than once. I wouldn't know for sure, except for my little cousin, his daughter, who is 4 years old and the only person in that household who seems to possess any genuine warmth. I'm close with her, and one afternoon while I was babysitting, she was coloring a picture of her family and matter-of-factly told me, "Sometimes Daddy is with a not-mommy lady at the park." The words, spoken with such childish innocence, landed like a stone in my gut. I've kept that secret locked away. It never felt like my place to detonate a marriage, no matter how miserable it seemed from the outside. Honestly, I always figured if the truth ever came out, my uncle would probably be relieved. He walks through life with the perpetually haunted look of a man who knows he can never do anything right. Rebecca's obsession with her own body naturally extends to judging everyone else's, and I am, without a doubt, her favorite target. I'm a tomboy, always have been. I live in jeans and hoodies, I don't know the first thing about contouring, and the idea of spending an hour getting a manicure sounds like a special kind of torture. I'm also a bit chubby. I'm not unhealthy, I play sports, I eat reasonably well, but I've got a stomach. I have curves. It's a trade-off I've consciously made. I love food. I love the joy of a good meal with people I care about, and if the price for that is not having a flat stomach, then it's a price I'm more than willing to pay. My aunt, however, sees this as a profound moral failing. To her, I am not just a tomboy, I am insufficiently feminine, a walking disappointment. She's constantly making comments, insisting I should be thinner, that I need to wear makeup and dresses, that a woman's value is measured by her waist size. Every holiday is a minefield. It's a given that she will comment on my weight, usually in front of the entire family, and no amount of pleading from my parents has ever made her stop. Her gifts are just another weapon in her arsenal of passive aggression. For the last 5 years, I have exclusively received makeup kits I'll never use, diet cookbooks, and subscriptions to fitness magazines. It's infuriating, but it's become such a predictable part of our family gatherings that it's almost a bizarre, twisted tradition. But this year, everything was different. This year, the stakes were higher. A few months ago, my life was completely upended by a diagnosis of type 1 diabetes. It came out of nowhere, a cruel twist of genetic fate. Suddenly, the simple joy I took in food was gone, replaced by a constant, tedious routine of counting carbs, checking my blood sugar, and injecting myself with insulin. The diagnosis sent me into a spiral. I felt betrayed by my own body. A quiet depression settled over me, a gray cloud that followed me everywhere. My parents, thank God, have been incredible. They've been my rock, supporting me in every way imaginable, learning my new reality alongside me. We all knew Thanksgiving was going to be a disaster. My aunt's usual commentary was going to hit a fresh, raw nerve. It was inevitable that she would notice I wasn't eating dessert, and that would force me to tell her about the diabetes. Trying to preempt the unavoidable explosion, my parents offered to tell her beforehand, to give her a chance to process it and hopefully, for once in her life, show a little compassion. I agreed. They drove to her house the day before Thanksgiving, and when they came back, they told me that, to their surprise, she had seemed to take the news well. She was quiet, they said, and didn't make a big deal out of it. A small, naive part of me actually felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this time it would be different. When Thanksgiving Day arrived, our house filled with the familiar chaos of a family gathering. For the first few hours, things were surprisingly peaceful. My Aunt Rebecca managed to avoid making any direct comments about me, choosing instead to talk endlessly about herself, which was her default setting anyway. She was an egomaniac of the highest order. She proudly announced that she'd had another cosmetic procedure since we'd last seen her 3 months ago, though for the life of me I couldn't see what was different. The meal itself went smoothly. The conversation was stilted, but at least it wasn't hostile. The fragile peace lasted right up until dessert. My mom brought out a pumpkin pie and an apple crumble, and everyone got up to serve themselves. Everyone except me and my aunt. She sat across from me, a smug little smile playing on her lips, and then she leaned forward, her voice just loud enough for the whole table to hear. All those years of eating like crap finally caught up to you, huh? I told you this would happen. Bet you regret it now. Time seemed to stop. The casual cruelty of her words, the triumphant look in her eyes, it was like a punch to the gut. The day had already been hard enough, a constant, painful reminder of everything my diagnosis had taken from me. Her comment was the final straw. The dam broke, and despite every effort to hold it back, tears started streaming down my face. I'm not a crier, especially not in front of my family, but I couldn't stop. My parents were on their feet in an instant. "What is wrong with you?" my mom demanded, her voice shaking with rage. "We asked you not to do this. For once, can't you just listen and not comment on her weight?" Rebecca just shrugged, completely unrepentant. "I mean, I'm not wrong," she said. "That's what sent my dad over the edge." He exploded. "Get out," he roared, pointing toward the door. "Get out of my house." My Uncle Richard, who had been snickering quietly the whole time, chimed in with a sly, "Come on, she's just speaking her truth." As they were being herded towards the door, I managed to get my crying under control, my grief solidifying into a cold, hard rage. All the years of her bullying, her relentless criticism, it all came to a head. As she reached the doorway, I stood up and yelled, my voice clear and steady. "All the years of being superficial and caring so much about how you looked didn't stop your husband from cheating on you, did it?" The effect was instantaneous. Rebecca spun around, her face a mask of confusion. I saw my Uncle Richard freeze in his tracks, the color draining from his face. My dad, not wanting to deal with the inevitable fallout, just shoved them out the door and slammed it shut behind them. The force of it rattled the pictures on the wall. I stood there, shaking, wiping my face with the back of my hand. My mom wrapped her arms around me. "I can't believe I said that," I whispered. She pulled back, her expression fierce. "Honey, she had it coming." What she said was monstrous. My dad, his face still flushed with anger, turned from the window where he'd been watching their car speed away. 20 years, he said, his voice thick with emotion. 20 years of her treating you like you're less than. 20 years of us asking her, begging her, to stop. He walked into the kitchen, and I heard the clink of a bottle. The rest of the family was frozen in a stunned silence. My grandmother was twisting a napkin in her lap, her lips pressed into a thin line. My Uncle Tom finally broke the tension. "Well," he said, "that was certainly a Thanksgiving to remember." My 16-year-old cousin, Jamie, looked up from her phone, her eyes wide. "Wait, is Uncle Richard really cheating?" Her mom shushed her immediately. I felt like I was suffocating. "I need some air," I mumbled, and escaped to the back porch. The cold November air felt good on my flushed skin. I sat on the old wooden swing, pushing myself back and forth gently, trying to process the explosion I had just detonated. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A missed call from a number I didn't recognize. Then another. As I stared at the screen, it buzzed again with an incoming call from the same number. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello." A woman's voice, nervous and shaky, asked, "Is this Maya?" "Who is this?" I asked, my guard immediately up. "My name is Look. I just saw your aunt and uncle leave your house." She was hysterical. "Did something happen?" My stomach twisted into a knot. "How do you know my aunt and uncle?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "I think we need to talk," she said finally. "Can you meet me somewhere?" "I don't even know who you are," I shot back. "My name is Victoria," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. I'm the one your uncle has been seeing." I almost dropped the phone. The not mommy lady. "Why are you calling me?" I demanded. "Because I heard what happened. Your little cousin told him you knew. He called me in a panic about an hour ago, said he might have to confess. Then he just texted me that you announced it to everyone at dinner." I stood up, pacing the small porch. "Look, I don't want to be involved in this." "Please," she begged, her voice cracking. "I just need to know what's going to happen. I have kids. If this all blows up," the disgust in my voice was palpable. "You have kids. I know how it sounds, but please, just 5 minutes. There's a coffee shop on Maple Street, it's open late." I glanced back through the window. The rest of the family was moving around now, clearing plates, trying to pretend things were normal. "I can't just leave. Please, I'm already here. I've been sitting in my car for an hour, trying to work up the nerve to call you." There was a raw desperation in her voice that got to me. 5 minutes, I said. That's it. I went back inside, my heart pounding. My mom was in the kitchen, her movements stiff and angry as she loaded the dishwasher. I'm going to go for a drive, I told her. Clear my head. She looked at me, her eyes full of concern. Are you sure you should be driving right now?
Ivy fine I lead.
I just need some space. My dad appeared in the doorway. Take your time, kiddo. We'll handle the cleanup. The coffee shop was nearly empty. I spotted her right away, a woman who looked to be in her mid-30s, sitting in a corner booth, systematically destroying a paper napkin. She looked up as I approached, her eyes red and swollen. I slid into the booth across from her. 5 minutes, I repeated. She nodded, her hands wrapped tightly around a coffee cup. I know you must think I'm a terrible person. I don't think about you at all, I said flatly. She took a shaky breath. How long did you know? A few months. My little cousin said something.
Victoria Winsett.
Richard said she was at the park that day. We didn't think she saw us. Kids see everything, I said, crossing my arms. What do you want from me? I need to know if your aunt knows it's me. My name. Or does she just know that he's cheating in general? I didn't give her your name, if that's what you're asking. I just said he was cheating. A wave of relief washed over her face. Okay, that's something. Are you going to keep seeing him? I asked. She let out a bitter, humorless laugh. After tonight? He sent me a one-line text. We're done. I have to fix my marriage. Good, I said. Is it? She shot back, her eyes flashing with anger. You know what your aunt is like. Do you really think she's going to forgive him? Or is she just going to use this as another weapon to torture him with for the rest of his life? She had a point. I knew my aunt. She would never let him forget this. She would make his life a living hell, and she would probably find a way to blame me for it too. I should go, I said, starting to get up. Wait. She reached into her purse and pulled out a thick manila envelope. Please, give this to your uncle. I recoiled. Absolutely not. I'm not your messenger. It's not what you think, she said quickly. It's information. Information he needs about your aunt. I paused, intrigued. What kind of information? She pushed the envelope across the table. The kind of information that might help him in a divorce. I'm a paralegal. I do my research. I stared at the envelope but didn't touch it. Why would you help him? He just dumped you over a text. Because I'm not the first woman he's had an affair with, she said, her voice low. And I won't be the last, as long as he stays married to her. Your aunt isn't just mean, Maya. She's abusive. And your uncle, he's not a saint, but nobody deserves what she puts him through. She stood up and walked out before I could say another word, leaving me alone with the envelope. I sat there for a long time before I finally picked it up. It wasn't sealed. I drove home slowly, the weight of the envelope on the passenger seat feeling immense. When I got back, only my parents' and grandmother's cars were left. I found them in the living room, a somber silence hanging in the air. Feeling better? My mom asked. I just nodded, sitting down next to my grandma. She patted my knee. You did the right thing, sweetheart, she said quietly. Someone needed to stand up to her. Did I, though? I whispered. I just blew up their marriage. No, my dad said firmly from his armchair. Richard blew up their marriage the moment he decided to cheat. You just turned on the lights. Your aunt called, my mom said carefully. She wants to talk to you. I don't want to talk to her. You don't have to. I told her you needed space. My grandmother squeezed my knee. She called me too. Demanded I make you apologize. What did you tell her? A rare, sly smile touched my grandmother's lips. I told her that if she hadn't spent the last 20 years tormenting my granddaughter, maybe her secrets wouldn't have come out at the dinner table. My jaw dropped. My grandmother was famously neutral in all family conflicts. I've held my tongue for too long, she continued, her voice stronger now. Watching her hurt you, year after year. Making those comments about your weight, your clothes, your choices. I should have stopped it long ago. It's not your fault, Grandma. No, but I enabled it by staying silent. We all did, she said, looking pointedly at my parents. We were so afraid of making waves that we let you drown. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. I ignored it. What's that? My mom asked, noticing the envelope in my hand. Someone gave it to me. Said it might help Uncle Richard in the divorce. My dad frowned. Someone who? I hesitated. The woman he was seeing. The room went silent again. You met her? My mom asked. She called me. Begged me to meet her. She was scared. Maya, you shouldn't have gotten involved. I know, I said, but she gave me this. I held up the envelope. I haven't looked through all of it, but there's some really serious stuff in here. Police reports. Medical records. My dad held out his hand. May I? I gave him the envelope. He pulled out the stack of papers and began to read, his frown deepening with each page. These are domestic incident reports, he said, his voice grim. Your aunt called the cops on your uncle. Multiple times. My mom moved to look over his shoulder. But look at the details, my dad said. She called them because he wouldn't give her the money for another Botox injection. Because he ate a piece of birthday cake at a work party. Because he bought 2% milk instead of unsweetened almond milk. My grandmother shook her head. That poor man. Poor man? I scoffed. He's a cheater. Two wrongs don't make a right, my grandma said gently. But sometimes people in desperate situations do desperate things. My phone rang again. This time it was my cousin Jamie. I put her on speaker. Maya, you need to check Instagram. Right now, she said, her voice urgent. Why? Just do it. Your aunt posted something. I opened the app and there it was. A long, rambling post from my aunt, painting herself as the victim of a cruel and calculated Thanksgiving ambush. She wrote about how her jealous niece had spread vicious lies to destroy her marriage. The comments were already flooding in, a chorus of her sycophantic friends offering support and calling me every name in the book. This is insane, I muttered. It gets worse, Jamie said. Check her stories. I tapped on her profile picture. She had posted a photo of me from last Christmas, my face caught mid-laugh. She had circled my stomach with a thick red line and added the caption, "Diabetes was inevitable. Some people just don't take care of themselves." My hands started to shake. My mom took the phone from me, her face a mask of fury. She's lost her mind, she seethed. This is cyberbullying. She's a grown woman attacking a teenager online. I'm screenshotting everything, Jamie said. My mom is losing it. She's calling Aunt Rebecca right now. Tell her not to, I said quickly. It'll just make things worse. Too late, Jamie said. I could hear shouting in the background.
You gotta go.
But Maya, for what it's worth, everyone knows she's crazy. Nobody really believes her. She hung up, but the damage was done. Notifications were exploding on my own phone. Comments from strangers, messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Turn it off, my dad said, gently taking my phone. You don't need to read that right now. She's trying to destroy me, I said, a wave of numbness washing over me. Because I told the truth. Because she's humiliated, my grandmother corrected. And when a narcissist is humiliated, they scorch the earth. My dad was still looking through the papers from the envelope. These medical records, your aunt has been prescribed some serious medications. Antipsychotics, mood stabilizers. She's mentally ill? I asked. That's not an excuse for her behavior, my mom said sharply. Mental illness doesn't make you cruel. No, my dad agreed, but it might explain the extremes. He set the papers down. Maya, I think you should give these to your uncle. He might need them. I don't want to see him. You don't have to. I'll handle it. He gathered the papers, his face grim. But first, we need to document everything she's doing online. If she keeps this up, we might need it for a restraining order. A restraining order? Against my own aunt? The thought was surreal. As if on cue, the phone in my dad's hand rang. He glanced at the screen. It's your uncle. I just shook my head. My dad answered. Richard, yes, she's here, but she doesn't want to.
What?
Slow down. She did what? We watched as my dad's expression turned to one of alarm. We'll handle it. No, do not come over here, Richard. I'm serious.
Fine.
Yes, I have them. Someone gave them to Maya. I'll explain later. Just keep her away from our house. He hung up and looked at us, his face pale. Your aunt is on her way here. Richard tried to stop her, but she stole his car keys. Call the police, my mom said instantly. She won't do anything, I said, though my voice trembled. She's all talk. Maya, go upstairs, my dad commanded. Now. I'm not hiding from her. You're not hiding, he said, his voice firm. You're de-escalating. My grandmother stood up. I'll go with her. We were only halfway up the stairs when we heard the sound of a car screeching to a halt in our driveway. I peeked through the upstairs window and saw my aunt stumble out of the driver's seat. Even from a distance, I could tell she was drunk. A wave of pounding shook the front door. Open up. I know you're in there, Maya. You little brat, get out here and face me. My dad's voice was calm but firm through the door. Rebecca, you need to leave. You're drunk. I am not drunk. I want to talk to my niece. She ruined my life. You need to go home. We can talk tomorrow when you're sober. Don't you dare lecture me. That girl is a liar. A fat, jealous little liar. I started to go back down, but my grandma put a hand on my arm. Don't give her the satisfaction. The pounding got louder. I know you're up there, Maya. Too scared to face me. Just like you're too scared to face your own damn diabetes. It's your own fault, you know. That's it. I heard my mom say. I'm calling 911. Go ahead, my aunt shrieked. Call them. Tell them how your precious daughter destroys families. I could see lights coming on in the neighbors' houses. Mrs. Chun from across the street was standing on her porch, her phone held up like she was filming. The distant wail of sirens started to grow closer. My aunt must have heard them too, because her tone shifted abruptly. "Please," she sobbed, her voice suddenly pathetic. "I just want to talk to her. That's all." "The police are coming, Rebecca," my dad said. "You should leave before they get here." "I'm not leaving until that brat apologizes." Two police cars pulled up, their lights flashing. My aunt turned to face them, trying to pull herself together. "Officers," she slurred, her voice syrupy sweet. "There's been a terrible misunderstanding. This is just a family matter." One of the officers approached her while the other spoke to my dad on the porch. "Ma'am, have you been drinking tonight?" the officer asked her. She failed the field sobriety test in spectacular fashion, nearly falling over while trying to walk in a straight line. They cuffed her and put her in the back of the patrol car. My dad came back inside, his face etched with exhaustion. "They're taking her in for a DUI. Richard is on his way to get the car." I came down the stairs, my legs feeling like jelly. "This is all my fault." "No," my mom said, her voice fierce. "This is the result of years of untreated mental illness and a lifetime of getting away with her behavior. You just happened to be the one who finally drew a line in the sand." My uncle arrived 20 minutes later, looking like a man who had aged 10 years in 3 hours.
He wouldn't look at me.
"I'm so sorry," he mumbled to my parents. My dad handed him the envelope from Victoria. "Someone gave this to Maya. You might need it." Richard's eyes widened as he looked inside, his face going ashen. "Where did you get this?" "Does it matter?" my dad asked. He finally looked at me then.
Maya, I am so sorry.
"For everything. The way she's treated you, what happened tonight. I should have stood up for you years ago." I just nodded, not knowing what to say. "Why do you stay with her?" I finally asked. He let out a bitter laugh. "Where would I go? She controls everything. The money, the house.
Her father got me my job.
And there's our daughter," he added, his voice cracking. "She needs at least one stable parent. If I leave, Rebecca gets full custody. You've seen how she is. Imagine that directed at a 4-year-old, 24/7. That's not a reason to cheat," my mom said softly. "No," he agreed. "It's not. But when you're drowning, you grab onto any piece of driftwood you can find." The next morning, the fragile calm was shattered. Richard bailed her out, and the harassment began in earnest. It started with a barrage of packages delivered to our house. Weight loss teas, diet pills, books with titles like The Sin of Gluttony. Each one had a gift message, a cruel little knife twisting deeper. "How is she even doing this?" I asked, staring at the growing pile of unwanted items on our porch. "Same-day delivery," my mom said, grimly taking photos of everything for evidence. Then the doorbell rang. It was a woman from Child Protective Services. My blood ran cold. Rebecca had filed a report, claiming my parents were medically neglecting me, that they had allowed me to get diabetes and were now enabling my dangerous behavior. The social worker, Ms. Martinez, was professional but clearly taking the claims seriously. It took 2 hours and a mountain of medical records and doctors' reports to prove that my diabetes was genetic and that my parents were doing everything right. "I'm very sorry your family is going through this. MS." Martinez said as she left. "It's clear this report was made maliciously." No sooner had she left than my cousin Jamie texted me, frantic. "Check Facebook."
Now.
My aunt had somehow gotten a hold of my private medical information and had posted screenshots of my recent lab results, my weight, my blood sugar levels, everything. It was accompanied by a long, unhinged rant about my parents' failures. It was a flagrant violation of the law, a HIPAA violation, but the damage was done before we could get the post taken down. The final straw came that afternoon. I was sitting on the back porch, trying to breathe, when my phone rang. It was her. "You think you're so smart," she slurred. "Ruining my marriage, turning everyone against me." "Aunt Rebecca, you need help," I said, my voice shaking. "I need help? You're the one who's sick. Diabetes at 17. It's disgusting." She then dropped a new bomb. She had hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on my mom from before she was married. "Check your email, sweetie," she cackled before hanging up. There it was. An email with old photos of my mom in college, at parties. Nothing scandalous, but the implication was clear. She was threatening to create a scandal, to ruin my mom's reputation if I didn't publicly apologize and retract my statement about the affair. My dad's jaw clenched as he looked at the email. She's trying to blackmail a teenager. This is beyond sick. We went to the courthouse the next day and filed for an emergency restraining order. The judge reviewed the mountain of evidence, the social media posts, the CPS report, the packages, the drunken confrontation, and granted it immediately. Rebecca was ordered to stay 500 feet away from me, my parents, our home, and my school. We left the courthouse feeling a sliver of relief. But Rebecca had one last, terrifying card to play. That night, my dad got a call. Rebecca had driven her car into a tree. She was in the hospital. As we were processing the shock, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is your fault. If I die, my blood is on your hands." Another followed. "You destroyed my life. Now I'll destroy yours. This isn't over." She was harassing me from her hospital bed. The next morning, Richard called, his voice shaking with panic. Rebecca had discharged herself from the hospital against medical advice. She was missing, and she had taken his handgun from the locked safe in their closet. The world tilted on its axis. A gun. My aunt was unstable, and she had a gun. Our house was immediately surrounded by police. We were on lockdown, prisoners in our own home. Hours crawled by in a state of suspended terror. Every noise outside made us jump. Then, Richard called again. They had found her. She'd been arrested. The gun was in her car, loaded. She was placed on an involuntary psychiatric hold. The immediate danger was over, but the war had just begun. Her father, my wealthy and powerful grandfather, stepped in. He unleashed an army of lawyers, suing us for defamation, emotional distress, anything they could think of. He put pressure on my parents' employers. He launched a PR campaign to paint Rebecca as the victim. Reporters started showing up at her house. My life became a living hell. The harassment was relentless, a death by 1,000 cuts. We were drowning in legal fees and fear. The breaking point, the moment that would define the rest of our lives, came on a quiet Tuesday night. I was in my room when I heard the sound of shattering glass downstairs. My heart stopped. I locked my door, grabbed my phone, and dialed 911, whispering to the dispatcher that my aunt was in the house. The doorknob rattled. Then the pounding began. "Maya, open this door. We need to talk." Her voice was high and frantic. The wood of the door began to splinter. I scrambled to my window, fumbling with the latch. The door burst open. Rebecca stood there, her eyes wild, her frame skeletal. And in her hand, she held a red can of gasoline. "You ruined everything," she said, her voice eerily calm. "So, I'm going to ruin everything you love." She began splashing the gasoline everywhere on my bed, my books, my clothes. The fumes were overwhelming. I was halfway out the window when she flicked open a lighter. "Rebecca, don't." I screamed. She just smiled, a terrifyingly serene expression on her face. "You should have just lost the weight, Maya." The sound of approaching sirens made her hesitate for just a second, the flame wavering. That second saved my life. Police officers stormed into the house. Rebecca dropped the lighter and locked herself in my bathroom. It took hours for them to coax her out. They led her past us in restraints, her face a mess of tears and smeared makeup. "I just wanted to help you," she whispered as they put her in an ambulance. Why couldn't you see that? The aftermath was a blur of legal proceedings and therapy sessions. Rebecca was deemed unfit to stand trial and was committed to a long-term psychiatric facility. Her father, faced with a mountain of evidence from Richard and a countersuit from us, finally ended his campaign of harassment. We spent years rebuilding. We moved to a new house, my parents found new jobs, and I finished high school online. The scars, both visible and invisible, began to fade, but they never truly disappeared. 5 years later, things are different. The letters Rebecca sends from the facility are filled with the sterile language of therapy, apologies that sound rehearsed, but are apologies nonetheless. I burn them without reading them. My Uncle Richard is remarried to a kind woman who makes my little cousin happy. And my cousin, now 9 years old, spends most weekends with us. Sometimes, in a quiet moment, she slips up and calls me Mom. We never correct her. Our family is smaller now, and broken in ways that can never be fully repaired, but it's real. We survived. And in the end, that's a victory no one can ever take away from us.